I guess that just goes to show that reading is a very personal experience. Works of art affect people differently, and this is one of those works that is just really profound to me, and it means a lot to me. I loathe my childhood and all that remains of it. It tells of an elite cult of intellectuals. It seems to be very hit or miss. Some people say it's the best book ever written, and then there's people that are like, it was so boring, I could not get through it. So before I get started with the video, I wanted to talk about the book that I'm gonna start reading. I thought it would be a good idea throughout this final season to just make it a goal to read at least one short story every day. This is a book given to me by my dad, and it's The Essential Tales of Chekhov. And he's a really famous Russian writer, but I've never read any of his works before, but my dad highly recommended it. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about some of the books that I'm really excited to read once I'm done with finals. I already took my first final, which was neurology, and it went well. And now I'm studying for ophthalmology, which is the branch of medicine that deals with eye disorders. And I gotta say, I'm enjoying preparation for that course more than I thought I would. I never pictured ophthalmology being a branch that I would be interested in, but this semester definitely changed my mind on that. But anyway, I haven't had much time to read, and so I'm really looking forward to being done with all my finals and finally having some time to read. These are the books that I really want to get to. I don't think I would finish all of these by the end of the year, but these are kind of the books that are at the top of my TBR list. For a lot of these, I don't really know what they're about. Either my dad recommended it to me or I heard somewhere that they were good. And so in regards to the plot, I don't know much. But there are some books that I'm planning to reread. Those books, I obviously know what happened in them. But other than that, I don't really know what some of these books are about. So something I really want to get into is reading plays, and there's two that are at the top of my list. The only experience I have is reading Shakespeare Macbeth back in high school, and I actually enjoyed it, but other than that, I really didn't pick any other plays up. But I want to read Hamlet. Honestly, I don't even know what it's about, but I remember liking Macbeth, so there's a chance that I'm gonna like this one as well, hopefully. Another play I want to read is Faust, I believe it's pronounced, part 1, and it's a German play. And the reason I want to read this is because earlier in February I read The Karamazov Brothers by Theodore Dostoevsky, and I loved that book. I loved it so much. I really wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. The only reason I picked it up is because at the time I didn't have access to my books or my father's books, and so I found it lying around in my friend's library, and I asked if I could borrow it, and then yeah, my world changed. I mean, the story was incredible. I completely fell in love with it. But within the book, he references this play, and so I really want to read it for that reason, so that the next time I read the Karamazov Brothers, those parts would make more sense to me. And as you can tell, these editions are like really old, and it's because they're my dad's from back in the day. Actually, a lot of these books are, so they've already like turned yellow and stuff, but there's something really cool about reading my dad's books from when he was my age. That makes the reading experience that much more special. But as for Fyodor Dostoevsky, since I liked the Karamazov Brothers so much, I also want to read Crime and Punishment and The Idiot. My dad really likes Crime and Punishment. He has like 3 or 4 editions of this book, and my dad is the type to buy a lot of editions for the books that he likes. So I can tell, like, when I look at his library, which books he actually really enjoyed. by how many copies of that book he has. And as for what these books are about, again, I really don't know. But I also didn't know what the Karamazov brothers was about, and I ended up really liking it. So I'm just gonna read these blindly as well. Another book I really want to read is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabrielle Garcia Marquez. Gabrielle Garcia Marquez is one of my dad's favorite authors. He especially recommended this one. The only other book I read was Chronicle of a Death Foretold, and I recently reread it earlier this year actually, and I loved it. I fell in love with the magical realism, and I believe there's magical realism in this book as well. And so if it's anything like that book, I'm pretty sure I'm really gonna enjoy this one. Another book, this book is a really pretty cover, but I want to read Diary by Chuck. I really don't know how to say his last name. I read 2 of his other books. I read Fight Club and Invisible Monsters, and I loved both of them. I thought they were so funny and dark at the same time, and his writing was so unique, and I've just never read anything like it before. And I feel like if this book is anything like those 2 books, then I'm also really gonna enjoy this. So another classic I want to read is Brave New World. Far in the future, the world controllers have created the ideal society. Through clever use of genetic engineering, brainwashing, and recreational sex and drugs, all its members are happy consumers. Bernard Marx seems alone, harboring an ill-defined longing to break free. A visit to one of the few remaining savage reservations where the old imperfect life still continues may be the cure for his distress. That sounds really interesting. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And some of the arguments that it brings up, I'm supposing the theme is struggle is partly what gives meaning to life, or perhaps that true happiness can't be achieved without knowledge of what struggle is. I don't know. But regardless, the concept is really interesting, and it's a well-loved book, and I'm pretty sure that it's for a good reason. These 2 books I want to reread. So the first is The Stranger by Albert Camus, and this is my favorite book, also my most reread book. I've read this book like 6 times, I believe, but it's just a book that every time I revisit, I get something new out of it. And the first time I read it was at a time where I felt, I'm not really sure how to explain it. It was just, the story really connected with me. It was able to put into words thoughts that I've had, but was never able to actually formulate properly. And it's always really cool when an author can do that, when you connect with an author's work in that way, in a really personal way. I know that it's very hit or miss. A lot of people find it, I guess, slow-paced, or they don't really see the significance of it. And I guess that just goes to show that reading is a very personal experience. Works of art affect people differently, and this is one of those works that is just really profound to me, and it means a lot to me. So I'm really looking forward to rereading it and just seeing how my thoughts have changed. And I found that every time I've reread it, I've focused on different aspects of the story. So I'm curious to see which part actually jumps out or connects with me this time I reread it. The other book I want to read is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. He's a Japanese author, and again, this was a book that really connected with me, and I found his depiction of loneliness within this book was really raw and honest in a way that I've never experienced from a book before. I think I would like to read these 2 books, maybe one after the other. Another book I want to read is Colorless, Sakura, Tazaki, and His Years of Pilgrimage. I read this book in high school and I really liked it. I think at the time it was my favorite Murakami book that I read. I remember really liking the story. I believe it's about a friend group and then there's 5 members, and basically the main character is suddenly expelled from the group. I remember really connecting with it at the time, and I would like to see if my thoughts remain the same. So another book I want to read, The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is, again, my dad's copy, so it's really beat up, but this is another book I read before. And there's a lot of books that I just want to reread. So this is a book that I found also in my dad's library that I really want to read, and it is called The Glass Bead Game. It tells of an elite cult of intellectuals occupying themselves with an elaborate game that employs all of the cultural and scientific knowledge of the ages. Another book is Moby Dick. This is one of my dad's favorite books, and yeah, for that reason I want to read it. It seems to be very hit or miss. Some people say it's the best book ever written, and then there's people that are like, it was so boring, I could not get through it. So I want to see under which group I fall under. Next book is The Prophet, The Noise of Time, The Black Book. There's a lot of books here. I didn't really talk about all of them. I also really want to read Middlemarch by George Eliot and The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck and Battle Royale. Really cool looking book. A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. We Need to Talk About Kevin, I Loathe My Childhood and All That Remains of It. Yeah, those are the books that I want to read. Probably won't read all of these this year. I'm hoping to get through at least some of these. So if you made it this far, let me know what you're planning on reading. And yeah, have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you hate them? But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.